It's 3 o'clock. Let's go ahead and start. Good afternoon and welcome to the Secretary of State's office's public comment hearing on our proposed amendments to Chapter 2 of our election procedures pertaining to identification for voter registration. And thank you to everybody who is participating in this today. These rules are promulgated in accordance with House Enrolled Act 57, which became law on March 21st, 2025. Section 1 of the Act amends Wyoming's voter registration process to require individuals registering to vote to provide proof of residence as defined in Wyoming Statute 22-1-102A, Romanet LV. Section 1 of this Act also creates a new subsection, Wyoming Statute 22-1-102A, LV, defining proof of residence to mean the documents or other proof of residence specified by rule of the Secretary of State, which rule identifies documents or other proof that establishes residency. Section 1 further creates a new subsection, Wyoming Statute 22-1-102A LVI, by defining proof of United States citizenship as specified, and amends Wyoming law to require that a qualified elector be a bona fide resident of Wyoming for not less than 30 days before the date of the election at which he offers to vote. Section 2 of the Act provides that the Secretary of State shall promulgate all rules necessary to implement the Act. The proposed rules amend Chapter 2 of the Secretary of State's rules governing election procedures to provide uniform rules whereby persons registering to vote must prove Wyoming residence. Specifically, the proposed rules amend Chapter 2, Section 5 to provide further clarity and uniformity for purposes of a voter's identity and residency in Chapter 2, Section 6, to provide further clarity and uniformity for proof of residency for purposes of voter registration. The rules amend Chapter 2, Section 7 to clarify the statutory requirements for proof of United States citizenship to register to vote as contemplated by the Act's creation of Wyoming Statute 22-1-102A LVI. Finally, the rules create a new Chapter 2, Section 8, specifying uniformity and clarity concerning documents allowed as acceptable documentation for durational residency upon a challenge. Before we get started, I wanted to introduce everyone from our office present today. We have Jesse Naiman to my immediate right, Deputy Secretary of State, CJ Young to my further right, Director of our Elections Division, and Joe Rubino, Chief Policy Officer and General Counsel to my immediate left. Micah Foffey, the Director of our Technology Division, is to my further left, is also helping us facilitate Zoom registrants. After a few brief remarks about the principal reasons for the rule, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Rubino to run through the proposed amendments to Chapter 2 of our election procedures. Then we will open the floor for public comment from those that have joined us in the room, then those who have registered online. Now, to the overview of the principal reasons. Providing proof of United States citizenship and proof of residency has been a key priority of our administration, and this rulemaking marks over a year-and-a-half-long standoff with Governor Mark Gordon and myself concerning the need for documentary proof of citizenship and residency to ensure a reasonable means to follow our constitutional obligations of ensuring only U.S. citizens and only Wyomingites are voting in Wyoming elections. The governor vetoed our rulemaking in April of 2024 requiring proof of residency and strengthening our procedures on citizenship. And that veto was very troubling. There were a lot of inaccurate statements in his veto letter sent to us, but we went to the legislature to work on this issue. And the proposed revisions made in accordance with House Enrolled Act 57 are key to fulfilling our obligation of ensuring voters in Wyoming are bona fide residents of Wyoming and are crucial to adding clarity to Wyoming's voter registration procedures as they relate to proof of residency. We didn't give up. We went to the legislature and the people won when the governor backed down and the bill became law absent without his signature. He did not sign the bill, but it became law without his signature. Ensuring that those who register to vote in Wyoming must provide proof of residency is pivotal to election integrity and voter security for Wyoming. It is also pivotal that we provide clarity concerning requiring evidence of citizenship when registering to vote. And it is very important that we be clear on the difference between proof of residence and citizenship and an attestation, which was the system before House Bill 156 became law without the governor's signature. Really enjoyed working with the legislature on House Enrolled Act 57 for the input provided by the Wyoming County clerks on this rule, which goes back to the middle of 2023 when we started working on this issue. And their repeated public comments about the need for administrative rulemaking to provide such clarity. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Rubino, who will go over the proposed rules.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Joe Rubino. I'm the Policy Director and Counsel for the Secretary of State's office. The notice of intent to adopt rules is publicly noticed. It's available on our website. It's also available on the Wyoming Administrative Rules System, which is also on our website. This comment period began on May 5th, 2025, and the comment period end date is June 20th of 2025. Both a clean and strike and underscore copy of the attached rules for the notice of intent packet are available on our website. I'm going to go through a brief overview of those, but those are available in completeness on our website. These rules amend Chapter 2 of the Secretary of State's election procedures governing proof of identification for voter registration, beginning with the change and amendments to the title of Chapter 2. The proposed amendments will create a proof of identification, proof of residence, and proof of citizenship framework for voter registration in accordance with House Enrolled Act 57. The authority cites the new section and amendments created by House Enrolled Act 57. Going on to the next amendments are found in Section 4 pertaining to documents for voter registration, amending subsection B to provide acceptable identification for proof of identity in accordance with Sections 5 and 6 of this chapter, a new subsection C, proof of Wyoming residence in accordance with Sections 5 and 6 of this chapter, and a new subsection D, proof of United States citizenship as defined by Wyoming Statute 22-1-102, subsection A, Romanet LVI. Moving on to the second page, the amendments to Section 5 of the rules, definition of acceptable identification and proof of residence for purposes of voter registration, amending subsection A to provide that any one of the following forms of acceptable identification shall accompany the voter registration application form and shall meet the registration requirements of federal and state law without providing any other form of identification or proof of Wyoming residence, provided that to establish proof of Wyoming residence, the identification lists a Wyoming address. For purposes of providing proof of Wyoming residence under this chapter, a Wyoming address includes a post office box located in the state of Wyoming, provided the individual registering is still required to list their Wyoming residential address as required on the voter registration application form. If the provided documentation does not list a Wyoming address, the voter shall also supply documentation from Sections 5B, 5C, or 6 of this chapter to establish proof of Wyoming residence. Moving on to subsection B of Section 5, outlines if the applicant does not have the forms of identification as listed in Section 5A, and the amendment down at the bottom of subsection B, if any of these documents lists a Wyoming address, said documentation shall also constitute proof of Wyoming residence. Moving on to page 3 of the proposed amendments to the rules, adding in a new subsection C by replacing Romanet 8 within the existing subsection B to provide that if the applicant does not have the forms of identification in 5A or 5B of this chapter present at the time of registration, then they can provide any two of the following documents. And if any of these documents lists a Wyoming address, said documentation shall also constitute proof of Wyoming residence. It lists out and enumerates those. It also adds a new Romanet 9 and a new Romanet 10. Moving on to Section 6 of the proposed revisions, additional documents for proof of residence. This provides that in the event of a challenge And if a registrant's identification in Section 5 does not contain a Wyoming address, then the following documents showing the individual's name and a Wyoming address are acceptable identification for proof of Wyoming residence. Subsection A, Romanet I, provides that the following documents must be current and be dated within 90 days from the date of registration, listing out a list of acceptable documents. And Romanet II provides that the following documents must be dated within 1 year from the date of registration, then lists those documents. Moving on to the final page of the proposed revisions in Section F of Section 7, of the proposed rules. This clarifies the documents of United States citizenship in accordance with House Enrolled Act 57 and specifies that for purposes of providing proof of United States citizenship for purposes of voter registration, any of the documents specified in Wyoming Statute 22-1-102, subsection A, Romanet LVI, shall constitute proof of citizenship, as outlined in Wyoming Statute 22-1-102, A, LVI, capital A, a valid Wyoming driver's license as defined by Wyoming Statute 31-7-102, subsection A, Romanet XXV, or a valid Wyoming identification card shall constitute acceptable proof of citizenship, provided it does not contain any indication that the person is not a United States citizen, including but not limited to any indication stating not a U.S. citizen as provided in 31-7-115 or 31-8-102. Moving on to Section 8, specifies that durational residency documentation. In the event of a challenge, any of the following documents specified as proof of Wyoming residence under Chapters 5 and 6 may be used to establish durational residency as required by Wyoming Statute 22-1-102, A, Romanet XXVI, provided the documentation establishes the individual has been a bona fide resident of Wyoming for not less than 30 days before the date of the election at which he offers to vote if necessary.
Without further ado, we will open public comment. Please know that this is an opportunity to provide input as a member of the public. Our office is here to listen. Now, a few parameters. 1, please state your full name for the record. 2, please speak as clearly as possible, and remember to turn on the microphone so your comment can be recorded. 3, comments will be taken from those present in the room first, then online. For in-person comments, we will take these on a first-come, first-served basis. Please come on up to the microphone table at the front and make sure the red light is on. For Zoom registrants, please raise your hand when we get to Zoom registrants, and remember to remain muted until called upon. So we will now proceed to public comment, and we will first proceed to the room. Would you like to comment? Oh, okay. Yourself as well? Okay. We have is it media? Oh, okay, great. So at this time, if Zoom could please raise your hands, and we will proceed to public comment on Zoom. So please raise your hand if you would like to publicly comment on Zoom. Again, please raise your hand. We'll go ahead and provide, wait about 30 seconds or so. Are they coming in? Okay. Okay. Okay, why don't you go ahead and start preparing a list with the 3 that have raised, and then we'll keep going. Okay. We'll start with Mark Kep. Mr. Kep, if you would unmute. I believe if we could start with Mark Kep, you could let him in the room, Mr. Foffey, and Mr. Kep, if you could unmute.
I'm unmuted. You able to hear me?
Yes.
Mr. Secretary of State, thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. I've reviewed your rules. I support all of the rule changes you have there. My only concern would be the Wyoming University ID card. I know that in the session, that was something that was discussed. I will speak that I don't think that's a good choice, but we have to live with what we've got in the legislation, so I support these rule changes. I believe that our elections need to be secure and more secure than they were, and the only way to do that is make sure people are actually residents of Wyoming when they're voting. So I support your rulemaking and appreciate this opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kep. Representative John Bear from Campbell County. If we could allow him into the room. And Representative Bear, if you could unmute.
Hello, Mr. Secretary, and my name is Representative John Bear from Gillette, Wyoming, and thank you for having my testimony as part of your hearing today. I did give testimony back in 2024 on the same effort, and I do appreciate all the work that you and your office have put in since that time and before that time as well. I do believe that the rules that you have drafted are in order and are in line with what the legislative intent was with House Bill 156, which I was the prime sponsor of. I do look forward to the results of this effort. I believe that ultimately we are trying to build confidence in our elections. One criticism of Wyoming elections is a lack of participation, and confidence in those elections is only going to help with that issue. So I appreciate your efforts. I will say this, that the previous commenter brought up a great point about the IDs that we are using. And I know that the legislature, at least myself, we will continue to work on that effort, as we did pass an effort out of the House to improve the IDs that are required for this effort. And we will continue to work on that diligently, but do appreciate your office's work on this matter and am in complete support of the rules as drafted today.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Bear. Thank you. Our next commenter is listed on the Zoom as Helen Campbell. I believe that's Elena Campbell. I don't, Ms. Campbell, if you could come on.
I'm here.
Yes.
Hello. I hope I'm not too quiet or loud. May I start by asking just a couple of quick questions? We have our current voter rolls listed in WYO-Reg. Is that correct? Do we go to any outside vendors or is it all internal?
Ms. Campbell, one of the principles, and I'll turn this over to the representation on public comment, is we usually don't engage in colloquies. That's sort of our response to the public comment process, but we want to, this is really
Okay.
time.
Okay.
So we want to.
I understand. I'm just trying to understand our system. May I
No,
chat with one of you guys?
Yeah, Ms. Campbell, is there anything you have to add, Mr. Rubino? I just don't want to, I want, this is really your time, Ms. Campbell, and appreciate that, but we want to maintain that as your time. Do you have-
Okay, I get it.
Yeah, absolutely. And no, thank you. We appreciate that. And we're happy to take any questions back. But at this time, you know, we're really focused on listening to input from the public during this session and hear your feedback on the proposed rules. And then every comment, every question that's asked, those things will be addressed that are relevant to the rules and the rulemaking. But yeah, for this time, it's really meant as a, not really a back and forth, but as a time that we're here to listen to the public.
Very good. Okay, thank you, Mr. Secretary, Mr. Rubino. Elena Campbell, Sheridan County. Very much support these rule changes. There are several different sections of election integrity that we have to tighten up, and the registration process and the voter ID are a couple of those. So thank you very much. I think that some of the complaints you'll hear about this will be that it disenfranchises, that it makes it more difficult for Wyomingites to register and then vote. And I will say to that, that if a loose or poorly understood or poorly guided system allows fraudulent ballots to make it into the system, then it is Wyoming Knights themselves. It is the citizens themselves that are being disenfranchised. And so your efforts are all about trying to maintain integrity of elections so that none of us are disenfranchised, that none of our votes are canceled out by a ballot that should not be there. So very much support you on this. And yes, Mr. Rubino, I'll give you a call because I have a couple of these questions. I thank you both. Thank you all.
And thank you, Miss Campbell. Hope everything's going well, and it's a nice day up there in Sheridan County. Be up there soon. So thank you, Miss Campbell.
Let us know when, please.
Thank you. It's
Bye-bye.
always wonderful in Wyoming. So appreciate it, Miss Campbell. Our next commenter with a hand raise is Clerk Malcolm Irvin. Clerk Malcolm Irvin, this is the Platte County Clerk. Can we let Clerk Malcolm Irvin in? Okay, and if you could just unmute Clerk Irvin, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and I apologize for joining online, but I do appreciate that that was an option here today, so I want to express that gratitude. I also want to say thank you for working with our offices on this set of rules over the last year, and most specifically on this iteration. We have just very minor suggested changes, which we'll follow up with a written letter just to explain those, and they're very minor. Really, our concerns are quelled for two reasons. Number one is the inclusion of the affidavit in the statute that would allow for a very last-ditch effort. And I want to be clear that we see that attestation as a last-ditch effort. If we've exhausted all other options, it's our last option on the table, specifically to ensure nobody is disenfranchised from voting. But that's our number one. Reason number two is these rules allow for somebody to prove they're a Wyoming resident and not necessarily prove the address that they're showing on their registration. As you can recall, Mr. Secretary, we had a lot of discussion back and forth about P.O. boxes listed on driver's licenses and ID cards in Wyoming. And so we really appreciate the inclusion and consideration of that in these rules. And so, like I said, we just have a few very minor items we'd like to forward to you for consideration. One of those is on the student IDs, that the rules would specifically say student IDs are acceptable provided it shows the elector's legal name. As we heard in the session, some school IDs are allowing people to use just names of their own choosing, and so we want to make sure those reflect their legal name. The other one would be that any reference to current and valid in section 5.8, we have a suggestion to change those to unexpired. I think that would provide a little clarity, and we'll explain further in our letter to you, Mr. Secretary. But like I said, thank you for working on this. We do look forward to working on legislation in the future that would allow for the ID card in Wyoming to carry as much weight during registration as the driver's license, but that's a discussion for another time. Here to answer any questions if you had them, but thank you.
Thank you, Clerk Irvin. Clerk Irvin is the Platte County Clerk and also the chairman of the Wyoming County Clerks Association. So thank you, Clerk Irvin. Appreciate it. All right. Well, sounds like, Mr. Foffey, that there's no other hands raised at this time. Well, we'll go ahead and provide an opportunity for another round. If at this time, if anyone would like to comment, continue to comment, and we've already provided a first round, but we want to continue to provide that opportunity. If there's anybody that would like to comment, please raise your hand in Zoom. Please raise your hand in Zoom at this time. We also, are you still, any interest in commenting in the room? We have, okay, thank you. So please raise your hand in Zoom world if you're interested in commenting. Yes, let's go ahead and do that. Looks like we do have a couple more hand raises here. Okay, Mr. Fox, Mr. Pete Fox from, I believe, Natrona County. Mr. Pete Fox, if at this time you could unmute.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, very good. One comment / question. If there's an appropriate way to ensure that one particular Wyomingite registered to vote, if they have multiple residencies in the state, is there a means to rectify that aspect to make sure that they're not registering more than once in our state? Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Fox, and we will consider that in our response letter. As we talked about earlier, we try to, this is really the public's time to comment, and so those questions we're going to incorporate into our discussion in as we consider adoption of the rules, which is the next step. Anything to add, Mr. Rubino, on that? Thank you. Yes. Ms. Campbell, I think would like to comment again. Ms. Campbell, if at this time you could unmute.
Yes, I'm sorry to come back a second time. It seemed that we received an invitation. This is a wonderful start. The thing that's gone on with our election systems through the past several decades, we've become increasingly centralized with electronics. And with the use of those electronics, we've lost control. We used to do our registration at the county level. People walked in, they signed their registration card. They got themselves properly registered within their county in a very small system. Now that has expanded, so it's electronic everywhere. And by virtue of that, we have lost control of being able to truly understand who it is that's registering. So, to the extent that we can decentralize, get this back down to the county level, I would love to see that. If we are using DMV to confirm residency status in any way, I would love for that to be a one-way street. I'd rather it be a read only so that we can look at DMV information to verify somebody wanting to register. I would really rather not DMV being able to reach into your system, your voter roll system, to make any changes. So I hope we're taking a look at that from a security standpoint. Regarding the college IDs, very much in agreement with other comments here. I would rather those not be allowed, and certainly if they are allowed, once again, ensure that they're not registered out of state. The other thing on voter rolls that makes us very vulnerable, and this is us in Wyoming and this is everywhere else, is that when there is an ability to reach into a voter roll system, people can get registered to vote. They may be real people, they may be low propensity voters, or it may be some sort of error in the name. And they get separate voter IDs. But if that kind of passes muster and our poor clerks really can't tell the difference, then a absentee ballot request could be submitted, sent out to who knows where, and then we've inserted a fraudulent ballot into our system, again, disenfranchising our own voters. So these rules are fabulous to start getting things tightened up, and there will be plenty of recommendations going forward to work to decentralize. We used to do this at the precinct and the county level. I would love to see us return to that decentralization to the extent that we can. I know we've all become reliant on electronics. Electronics are quite wonderful for efficiency's sake, but the most important thing is going to be accuracy and transparency of everything we do surrounding elections. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. One thing I do want to note is that any student ID would require it to have a Wyoming address on it. And so I do want to note that. Okay, we have exhausted the third list we did. At this time, we will provide another opportunity on Zoom World. We have exhausted public comment in the room. There's actually no public comment in the room. The individuals are here observing. But we are in Zoom World at this time. So if there's anybody that wants to comment over Zoom, please raise your hand. Please raise your hand. I'll also note here, as we go into our fourth iteration of allowing public comment over Zoom, if anybody just wants to unmute and start, that's fine as well. Okay, looks like we do have a couple here.
Mr. Secretary of State, this is Mark Kepp out of Crook County. Knowing that there's media in the room with you, I'd like to provide public comment to you in regard to these rules that overwhelmingly the voters of Wyoming, and I talk to a lot of people, support these rules that you have in place. And so I just want to make that heard on this chat to the media in the room. The people of Wyoming want these rules. So make sure that any reporting that comes out on this does iterate that people want this and we want these rules. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kepp. Ms. Kaufman is up next. Ms. Kaufman. So if you could unmute Ms. Kaufman and go ahead and comment.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I really support. Mark Kepp just actually said what I wanted to say, that the people of Wyoming are absolutely behind this, and we are grateful for this passing through and for you to do this in the rules. So we are in absolute support of this, and I wanted to thank you for going through with this and getting it in our rules as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Kaufman. We are now entering the fifth iteration of public comment on Zoom. I believe there's somebody that just raised their hand.
Mr. Secretary, this is Representative Bear again. Just piling on a little bit, I'd like to add a comment about the popularity of this particular law and your rules that are associated with it. Prior to introducing this bill, we conducted a poll of likely voters in the state of Wyoming. It was a very scientific poll, and this particular issue had over 74% support. And we saw that as we traveled the state campaigning in 2024 as well. So just want to add some facts to that. Thank you again.
Thank you, Representative Bear. So we are now entering sort of the sixth iteration of public comment on Zoom, which is great. Really love the public comment. Really appreciate everybody for commenting. So at this time, and also look, at this point, if somebody just wants to unmute, I know just in case anybody's having any issues with raising hands, just go ahead and unmute. I want to make that clear. But also you can raise your hand at this time. So please, if there's anybody that wants to raise their hand to engage in public comment. Seeing anything, Mr. Foffey? Oh, okay. Okay. It looks like somebody just rejoined the Zoom. And so we've completed public comment in the room. We are now in public comment in Zoom. If you would like to comment over Zoom, raise your hand. If you do have an issue with that, go ahead and just unmute and start. But if you could raise your hand, and if that's not working for some reason, just unmute and go ahead and start. And that's true for anybody in Zoom world. So again, we are in public comment in Zoom. I love this. I used to be a radio host, and you had to repeat things. But we are in public comment in Zoom right now. We've public comment in the room was not exercised. We have observers, and great to have you here. Thank you for being here. We're in Zoom World public comment, and if you would like to publicly comment over Zoom, please raise your hand. That helps us in keeping it orderly. But at this point, if you're having issues or otherwise you just want to go ahead and unmute and start, that's fine as well. Any public comment over Zoom, you could raise your hand or unmute and just start. Again, any public comment over Zoom, go ahead and unmute and start. I think at this time we'll go ahead and wait for maybe two minutes and just stay here and then we'll announce one more time on that. Just for the record and the media out there, it's 3:37.
Mr. Secretary, I'll say one more thing. I appreciate your patience. Hi. This is one part of a big moving puzzle. Our election integrity starts with proper voter registration, making sure that they are bona fide residents of both our state and the United States. And then it moves on to when you walk into the room to vote and proper ID there. Then it moves into the tabulation system, which currently is a black box system. It gets stuck into a machine. We do logic and accuracy, but we still don't really know what's happening on the day of election. And so I am aware that your office is working on all of these things surrounding our election, finishing up with reporting to you. And so what's coming from our precincts and then to our clerks and from our clerks to you, that is chain of custody of results all along the way. All of those things, given the electronic nature of how it's done, you can call it the election industrial complex, is what it has become. So I love that you have this very good first start at it. Registration is the first part of it. And we need to, for elections security, move all the way through all of the components of it. So again, thank you very much for taking the comments.
Thank you. All right. Well, we are in public comment over Zoom. We've completed public comment in the room. If anybody would like to publicly comment over Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're having issues with that, no problem. Just go ahead and unmute. We understand that technical things happen out there. So just go ahead and unmute as well at this point. I think we'll wait about 2 more minutes. Again, we are in public comment over Zoom. If you would like to comment, go ahead and raise your hand. If there's any issues on your end on that, just go ahead and unmute and go ahead and start with your public comment. We'll wait here a few more minutes and then
Mr. Secretary,
Yes, go ahead.
This is Representative Bear again. I had someone contact me. They're having difficulty. If you could just give it a couple more minutes, they're going to restart and try to get in to where they can make a comment.
No problem.
Thank you, sir.
So just to let the world know where we're at. We have completed public comment in the room. We have 2 observers here. They elected not to publicly comment. And we love observers. We love public comment. And now we're in Zoom world public comment. So if you'd like to comment over Zoom, what you do is you just raise your hand. And we have that orderly process. But also, if there's technical reasons, we also just go ahead and unmute at this point, and comment as well. We don't want any perception that we're providing barriers or anything. So we're also waiting. We just got some feedback that somebody's attempting to log back on, and so yeah, that's where we're at here. It's 3:41. Just to help the media on that.
Mr. Secretary, this is Representative Bear again. That person has not been successful logging in to where they can communicate. So I'll just recommend that they get a written comment to your office before the close of comment period.
Okay. Okay, we do have a raised hand, so we got more time. Miss Michelle Ritterbush just raised her hand. So we'll go over to Miss Ritterbush, and Representative Bear, thank you. But Miss Ritterbush, if you could unmute.
Hello, Michelle Ritterbush from Sheridan County. I just so appreciate what you're all doing. Want you to know that I'm also in support of this, and I just thank you all for the work you're doing towards election integrity. Mostly, I'm just in agreement with all the others that spoke. I'm just for transparency and accuracy and all those things that we can do to work towards that. Just wanted to thank you all again.
Thank you, Miss Ritterbush. Thank you. Thank you. Well, here's where we're at here at 3:43. We completed public comment in the room, and we're now in Zoom world public comment. And so if anybody would like to publicly comment over Zoom, we have 2 ways of doing it. You can raise your hand. And then if you're having technical issues on your side, no problem. Just go ahead and unmute if raising hand is any issues. We're here to really facilitate public comment. So either raise your hand or just go ahead and unmute. Okay. If anyone would like to publicly comment, raise your hand or unmute. I think we're reaching here a point where I think everybody's commented that wishes to on this avenue. Again, written comments can also be submitted. That is to joe.rubino, RUBINO, 1 at wyo.gov. Again, joe.rubino, 1 at wyo.gov, wyo.gov. Well, we're going to go ahead and provide one more opportunity here, and then we'll kind of call it 3 times and wrap up. We have completed public comment in the room. If anyone would like to publicly comment over Zoom at this time, go ahead and raise your hand. And if there's issues on that, just go ahead and unmute. Just go ahead and unmute. No problem. And I'm going to call it 3 times here. Going once, again, please go ahead and raise your hand or unmute if you'd like to publicly comment over Zoom. Going twice. Again, if you would like to publicly comment over Zoom, go ahead and raise your hand or just go ahead and unmute. Going 3 times. No others have. Okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead and close public comment and really appreciate everybody being here. We'll go ahead and provide one last option in the room. Is there any interest in commenting? Okay. Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much. This is a great process, very important process. Thank you, Mr. Young and Mr. Naaman and Mr. Rubino and Mr. Fafi for helping to facilitate. Thank you for everybody who's here. And with that, we are going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you.